You're tuned into TobiTalks, Special Edition. Nurses Support Their Young campaign. Whether you are starting off on the unit as a new grad, or maybe you're about to retire off of a unit, anywhere in between, or maybe even as a nursing student, you have always heard this term, nurses eat their young. And that pretty much is like a nice little capsule of saying that nurses get bullied, and usually it's by older seasoned nurses when they say that. But it's not really true. You can also be bullied by your colleague or bullied by someone who also started the unit when you started. But this episode is not to go into that. This episode is to highlight those who have supported nurses who were young, like me. And I kind of want to share a story with you guys about me and my beginnings into my nursing career. When I first started, I actually got an externship to this wonderful orthopedic hospital. And I was so freaking happy and excited. It was like, what? I'm in nursing school and I got an externship and I'm gonna get paid? Woo, Lord. So I was super, super excited. But I'm not going to lie, when I first got on the unit, a couple of weeks went by and I just wasn't feeling it. And it wasn't because I didn't like the environment. It's just I didn't really have a preceptor at that time. Unfortunately, the preceptors that were assigned to me, one was on vacation and another one had an emergency surgery. So I was kind of being bounced around a lot. And seeing some of my other colleagues build that relationship and, really get to grow with their preceptor, it was kind of almost saddening for me. But lo and behold, I didn't give up. And by the second month of my externship, my assigned preceptor had came back, both of them actually. And I was kind of going between both, and they were amazing. Like, they taught me so much. They gave me so much confidence in the fact that I'm a nursing student, but then one day I'm going to be a nurse. I didn't feel like it wasn't something that was impossible, and if I didn't have that experience that I did with them, I don't think I would have been the nurse I am today, sharing my experience with you guys through this podcast like I am now. And I have to give shout out to where it's due. Jason and Kimberly, y'all know who y'all are, but they were like the most amazing preceptors for me when I was in nursing school. And then when I graduated, this was actually the hospital that I ended up staying at because I just built such a wonderful relationship with so many amazing people that worked there. Even from the director of nursing, I think this was the first time in my entire life that I knew a director of nursing could be so involved and so engaged with her unit. It was just like, and on top of that, she was Black. Woo, Black girl magic. So I was like, yes, I actually have somebody I can look up to if I wanted to be a director one day or if I wanted to be a manager. We had two strong African-American women who were in two leadership positions who were very engaged with their unit. So when I graduated and I decided to work for this hospital, my extern preceptor ended up being my preceptor as a new grad. And I kid you not, I could not have done anything without her support the way she did. I never felt like, if you're a new grad, you always feel like you got that one preceptor that's constantly looking over your shoulder and micromanaging. No, she was so amazing. Like, she taught me everything I needed to know. I could always come to her with so many questions, and Lord knew I had so many questions. And even when I messed up, and I just thought oh my gosh, how am I a nurse? I made an error. She just comforted and consoled me so much. And she just let me know that accidents happen. And this is what makes you stronger as a nurse. If I didn't have a preceptor like her in the beginning stages of my nursing career, I would not be that nurse now who's able to support other young nurses coming in. So I definitely want to tell you, Kimberly, I thank you so much for the opportunity of you just teaching me, growing me, and equipping me to be the nurse that I am today. And on top of that, you made sure that the relationship didn't just stop inside the hospital walls. I mean, y'all, I was this Nigerian girl who moved to a brand new city who knew no one. And this girl took me in with her family and her dogs and her fishes. Y'all, I was a part of family, okay? So I just want to share that story because I hope this inspires so many other preceptors out there to really get engaged and really support these young nurses coming out of nursing school, because it's hard and it's scary. And I mean, when you think about saving a life when you were a new grad, how would you want someone to teach you and embrace you and love you and grow on you? So that's my little intro, but I cannot wait to talk to you guys with Nurse Blake, who is here to talk to you about the Nurse Supporting Their Young campaign. I am so excited, and you know what? I'm already starting to talk too much, so let me go ahead and hop into this conversation. Let me go ahead and hop into this because I just cannot wait to talk into details about the campaign. But before I do, give me some background on how did you even fall into nursing?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have like one experience in their life that made them get into nursing, and I didn't have that. My dad has been a respiratory therapist for about 27 years. He kind of started in healthcare when I was born. And so growing up, I was raised with him leaving at night to work, RT shifts at the night shift. And my mom was in medical sales. And nursing was it's exactly what I got into in high school. I was a part of a healthcare high school program, and I just quickly transitioned into the nursing track. So really nothing else career-wise was on my mind. It was just nursing was kind of where I was meant to be. And I'm so happy it turned out that way because I love nursing. I've been a nurse for 4 years now.
Let me tell you something. Not only are you just like a nurse that's rocking your units, you are rocking social media. I am in love with your videos, and me and Nurse Becky, we here, okay? From the wig down, me and her.
Everyone loves Nurse Becky so much. I'm so happy about it. I'll have to tell her you said hello.
Please do. Me and her going to exchange some wigs here and there because I'm a wig wearer and I love her. Hers is popping. She had that cute little bob.
Oh my gosh.
The good thing with nursing though is that, we always need that kind of that laughter, that, bringing that, I know we can't have a drink on a unit, but we can have a good laugh. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's what I love. Like people will write me and they'll be like, my nursing professor shows your videos before class, or my unit watches your class or watches your videos. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome. I love that so much.
That's what we need. So I appreciate you for that. But the topic of the hour is definitely this campaign. I was just taken by storm when I saw it on Instagram trending. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what we need. We need more people, being champions of changing our workforce. And I kind of want you to talk more about that and how it all started and the name of the campaign.
Yeah, well, the name of the campaign is Nurses Support Their Young. And I knew as my social media platforms started growing, I know I want to use it for good. And I've kind of always wanted to address this issue of healthy work environments and nurses really working together. But I didn't know what that movement or campaign was going to look like. And you always have to have some sort of catchy title and a really good focused mission. And I didn't have that yet till probably about, oh my gosh, 2 weeks ago, because we launched a campaign last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I just am in my mind, I get all the best ideas in the craziest places, like walking a dog, eating my breakfast biscuit in the morning, the craziest, my ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And nurses eat their young. I've heard that phrase so many times. And every time I hear it, I just, you just don't get a good feeling by that phrase.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we should take that phrase and turn that into a campaign. So instead of saying that, nurses should support their young and not only take a picture holding up a sign for social media, but actually living that. And anyone can participate, even nursing students who are in their second year, because you know what? You have new nurses coming in right behind them. And I think that is when you really need to start supporting one another.
Absolutely correct. And I love that you brought in nursing students, because when I was a nursing student, I felt that nurses eat their young while in nursing school. We had some clinical experiences that weren't so nice. You would hear nurses like, oh, students are coming back. I don't want to be a preceptor. You'll hear all these rumblings and you're like, oh my God, is this what I'm going into? Hold up. They don't even want me here as a student. What are they going to want me to do as a new nurse?
Right. Yeah, it could be very intimidating. And I think the way we address that culture now, if you go to conferences, you'll just hear bullying and you'll hear, healthy work environments and making it better, which is great. But there's nothing really catchy that really, I think, sticks where people are able to have a real honest conversation about it. And then after we launched Nurses Support Their Young, everyone was able to connect with it in their own way and in a way where everyone was able to connect with it. to a certain level. And everyone was sharing their stories. Some people were bullied, but then they stuck with nursing, and now they say, I'm never going to be that person. I'm always going to support other nurses. And you have some people that say, my unit was awesome. I've never had an issue. But I want to make sure that as I move through my career, I don't want anyone else under me to have that issue. So I'll always support, the younger, the newer nurses. So it was really cool to see stories, and literally from all over the world. Even though our practice may be different in other countries, we can all pretty much relate to the same thing.
I know that's right. Oh my goodness. So did you ever have to experience that as a nurse on the unit, being 4 years in at any point in your career? Did you have to deal with someone being a nurse bullying you? And if you did, or if you saw anyone else who went through that, how did you deal with that? Or how did you stick up or stand up for that kind of behavior?
I was never bullied as a nurse, and I never really saw actual bullying. It was more just nurses that weren't being very welcoming and really not supporting other nurses. And that alone, even without bullying, sets a tone for the whole unit. It sets a tone really for your career, especially as a new nursing student. So it's really about being welcoming, taking the time to really train and educate nursing students and newer nurses, and really getting them comfortable. And of course, that takes time. And as nurses, when you're on a unit, you're really, really busy. But I think it's the way you approach it makes such a huge difference. So luckily, I've never had to experience bullying. I've never witnessed it. When I do come across a nurse who isn't very welcoming, or maybe they're being a little rude or mean, I really try to go out of my way to, number one, understand what they're going through, like to understand what their patient load is, what they're actually doing for their patients now. And I'll try to help them. Me personally, when someone's kind of mean to me, I'm like, oh, I could be mean right back. But in healthcare, that doesn't work for the benefit of the patient, and it doesn't work to help build a healthy work environment. So sometimes you got to take the high road and offer this person who may have been mean to you some help. What's going on? How do you feel? Like, can I help you with your patient? And sometimes you have to say, are you doing okay? I seem like you're kind of upset. Is anything going on that I could help you with? And sometimes in the past, it has worked for me. And there's been some nurses that have been really intimidating. And I'm just able to really address them and have a conversation about it. And then we end up being friends and liking each other,
See, and that's exactly the key, though. I think sometimes we feel like if we ignore it or shy away from it, instead of addressing it does get worse. And sometimes when someone is being strong or off-putting, we automatically take it personal when we really don't know what's going on in that person's mind or their workload or in their life, because as nurses, we still are human beings. So we might take some things that happen at home and bring it with us when we don't mean to. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
So I like that you gave that example of, hey, everything all right with you? You good? Because I'm sensing a lot. You a thunderclap. What's going on?
Exactly. And, healthcare, it's such an emotional career, and it's an emotional shift when you're working, and every nurse is going through, number one, their own emotions, their personal, what they have going on at home, and then the emotions of taking care of patients there on that unit. And you may have one patient who's been in the ICU 6 months and they're able to walk for the first time. So you're celebrating at that patient. Well, right in the next room over, you're talking about end of life care. So I think we all have to have an understanding of one another, that emotions may change in the blink of an eye on nurses, and we just have to be kind of accepting to that, kind of be in tune with that. But bullying, when you talk about bullying or any sort of verbal abuse, I mean, that is something that should not be tolerated. There should be zero tolerance on that, because that doesn't help anybody.
You're absolutely right. So then what about, because I know sometimes when we think of, workplace bullying, sometimes we only just picture like, oh, maybe a nurse eating their young. But what about, providers? What about that kind of experience where providers are kind of, really strong on nurses, or kind of bully them in a way and make them feel belittled if they call on them at 3 a.m. because, their patient is in critical state and they need some, feedback from the doctor. How do you think nurses should deal with that kind of bullying?
I always address it. If it's in a situation where you can address it with the provider at that moment, address it. Or if not, make sure you tell your manager or supervisor that behavior. Never not address it because maybe it could be bad for you again in the future. Like you want to have that documented.
Mm-hmm.
And then always tell the providers, how you feel. And I always say, we are all here to help the patient. And if I'm ever calling a physician like at night, if it's really early in the morning, especially a lot of new nurses are like, I'm afraid to call a doctor in the morning. I may wake them up, or a provider. No, you're a patient advocate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And as providers, that's our call of duty, to be there when patients need us and to be there when other healthcare providers need us. So, you always let the provider know why you're calling them. That's, everyone knows SBAR,
Mm-hmm.
right?
SBAR.
SBAR, everyone knows SBAR. But I think that's time. Like nurses and new nurses need time to build that confidence. But it's all, at the end of the day, everything that you do comes down to you being a patient advocate.
Yes. Very true.
I think that's what you have to speak up. You have to speak up to bullying. You have to speak up to other providers, who may, be bullying nurses or CNAs or really anybody at the hospital. You have to speak up.
That is so true. And I love that that's what this campaign is about. This campaign is not to like bash anybody or not to open all these old wounds and just talk about, bullying. But this campaign is quite different. It's not even going towards, workplace violence, all this stuff that we talk about with no solution. This campaign is really focusing on support and just being positive. So what do you think this campaign can do for healthcare settings? Like, I'm seeing a lot of trends of them talking about it and showing pictures and stuff. Do you think this is like even topic and agenda items they can even have at meetings and discuss, like, what can we do to make our nurses feel supported? Like, where do you see that? Is that where you see this campaign going and impacting healthcare in that way?
Oh, it's been very surprising. Probably 3 days ago, I was going through my messages on Instagram, and I saw like nurses were including, or students were including the Nurses Support Their Young campaign in their school projects.
Oh, wow.
There's one hospital in Orlando that's getting pictures with all their units, and they're going to be hashtagging it and putting it up on social media. So people are kind of, and this is exactly what you want with the campaign. You want to have a clear message, but you want people to be able to interact it in their own personalized way, and kind of have responsibility of that campaign on their unit, in their campus, at their hospital, in their community, because you want to build leaders. You want to build, you want to enable people to take what, the campaign that you've kind of given them, and to take it wherever they think it needs to go. Because, every hospital is different, every school is different, they all have different needs. But I love that people are kind of creating their own, spin on it. And they're really taking an initiative and doing something about it. They're not just, posting it on Instagram just for a picture. And I've learned that through the messages. And the stories have been so positive. It's not just like, oh, I was bullied and that was the end. It's like, I was bullied, but you're right. We have to support each other. We have to support newer nurses. And I will take the pledge that I will support nurses who come after me. So it's a very positive message. And I just love how positive that really nurses and nursing students have been around the campaign.
I'm amazed too. Like, it resonates with me because, I think about, I did go through bullying at the bedside, but I had a wonderful, wonderful preceptor. I have to give her a shout out, Kimberly Alipore. I love her so much. She's like my best friend, but she was my preceptor when I was an extern. She was my preceptor when I was a new grad. And I went through those kind of things with different kind of nurses and stuff. And she would always coach me through, like, it's okay. Everyone goes through that, or forget her. She's just negative, Nancy. Keep going. You know what I mean? And you need people, you need advocates like that for you, advocating for you as a new grad, advocating for you as a new nurse. And having that support system was amazing. And then even in my shift of career, going from bedside to now more administrative and quality, you deal with a whole different kind of bullying. You deal with like leadership level and in like, what is it?
Politics
And a lot of complex mental issues. Good Lord, everyone wants to, have a power struggle. So there's different versions and levels of bullying, but it's always good to have someone who's advocating for you as well. And I say that so strongly because I think you can really, as new grads, you can really build a relationship with your preceptors, that they can even be those ones championing you and encouraging you when you're going through those days of, okay, this was a tough day and this person made me feel like this, having someone to talk to go through this, because I think we need more mentors and more media like you keeping us laughing on social media to, really get through what we deal with as nurses on our daily basis. So, I mean, this campaign truly, I feel like it's going to really shake things up and not always focus on the negative aspect, but really start encouraging that positive movement.
Well, I love that you gave a shout out to your preceptor, because I think people who didn't go through the feeling of nurses eating their young, I think they learned through this campaign that some people may have not have been so lucky as them, and other people are actually tagging their preceptors and they're like, thank you so much for everything that you taught me. So it's a way to step back and look at like, oh, maybe I had a great preceptor, but there's other people out there that didn't have that experience. So it lets people appreciate the people that were mentors that help lift them and help, build a strong foundation in their nursing practice, which I think is really, really cool and positive. And it's just so, I go through the messages, and that's what I do at night. I literally go through all these messages because it's just so inspiring.
Well, it's good to hear that. Y'all hear that? Blake be reading them, because sometimes people feel like, oh, you have like 2-point-something million followers. He probably doesn't see my messages. Well, you hear it now. He reads them.
I do. I read them. They're so awesome. There was another point I was going to make about nurses supporting their young. And also, I think that if you do have a really great preceptor, just like you gave a shout out to yours, write them a letter. And thank them for, taking you under their wing, because being a preceptor, is not easy. It takes a certain person to be a really good preceptor. And I think as a student or as a new grad, you really have to look back and thank the preceptor for doing such a really great job.
You really do, because my preceptor was not just my nursing preceptor. Like, I had moved from a whole nother city to a brand new city in a empty apartment. Like, she would be the person bringing me, like, she has a family and she's bringing me lunch at night. She's caring for me, awesome. And she's helping me, integrate from this Nigerian girl who left all her family to come in this new city and work at an orthopedic hospital, and not necessarily always has to stay in the hospital walls. That, let's be impactful and touch each other's lives, because we need each other. And this campaign truly supports that, because there's this gap that we're hearing a lot with, millennials and then the older seasoned nurses. And then there's this I don't know, in the middle, there's non-communication and all these issues going on. But from seasoned nurses, us millennial nurses, we need you. We need your experience. We want to know how you dealt with these kind of patients. And from millennials to seasoned nurses, you need us. We're going to teach you how to use this technology, okay?
Right, yeah, exactly.
We're all helping each other out.
I don't think we're going to see, you're not going to see an overnight fix with this, but I think it's going to take this next generation of nurses to really instill the whole, we support each other, that I hope, in the next generation of nurses, they don't ever have to hear the phrase nurses eat their young. I want them to be like, what are they talking about? What, was that really a thing? But, my main goal is with the campaign. I mean, right after we launched it, within 72 hours, we got over 5,000 pledges. And some people would be like, well, what does the pledge do? It doesn't do anything. Well, the pledge brings awareness that we have an issue, and it enables everyone who signs it to really take accountability to themselves, that they are going to be a support to others. And that they may even take the campaign further, like some other people are doing, where they're bringing this up in classroom projects or on their unit practice council. So I think it'll take some time, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
And how many is the goal for the campaign right now? Because I know that you guys are trying to reach, is it 10,000 or is it more than that? Because it's growing so fast.
Next, I think our next hurdle is 10,000. I think we're over 7,500. So we're getting close. But, it's not really about the number of pledges we get. It's about, changing a culture. And I don't know how many pledges that's going to take. But I think we'll keep growing it and people keep sharing their stories and posting pictures. And, these campaigns like this, they're not just done overnight.
They're
They
not.
kind of grow organically, and you can't force anything on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like about this, is like people are stepping up and taking action.
I love that. Oh, I love it so much. So can you share with people like how they can find you on social media? If you're not already following, you need a good laugh, you need to follow him. And also, like, where can we go to sign this pledge and actually start campaigning and getting more people, more awareness out there and getting more nurses and nursing students on board?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, and you can also find me on Facebook at Nurse Blake. I do post a lot of videos. They're so fun to make. And Nurse Becky, I don't know when I introduced her, probably at like the beginning of the year. People love her. It's so awesome. And to find the pledge, you can find that on nurse.org/pledge. Awesome.
Well, Blake, I want to tell you, thank you so much for just even being the initiator of this. And I know sometimes when you do something like this, it has such a big movement. You kind of like, well, I don't want to take all the credit, but credit needs to go where it's due. Like if it wasn't for a nurse like you speaking up and actually doing something that grabs the attention of so many other nurses that can relate, change won't happen. So I applaud you for being that nurse that stands up, speaks up, and actually starts to put some change out there. So thank you so much. And thank you for talking to my listeners about this pledge. And I'm hoping you guys are out there signing up, and not only just signing up and taking pictures, but truly bringing that support to your unit, to your classrooms, wherever you are in the healthcare center.
Yes. Sign the pledge, sign and share. And thank you so much for having me on to share the Nurses Support Their Young campaign.
I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. There were so many gems dropped. And if you want to reach me or hit me up, feel free to contact me through my email at TobiTalks@TobiTalks.com. Again, that's TobiTalks@TobiTalks.com. Feel free to follow me on Instagram or slide me a DM. That's at Tobi.Talks. Again, IG, Tobi.Talks. I also got Twitter, like everybody else. So feel free to hit me up. And my Twitter is This Is TobiTalks. I look forward to talking to you guys very soon. And remember, I'm rooting for you. So go out there and be great. Till next time, talk to you later.